let's do it.
All right, we are live. Hey, what's up, guys? Joker here, joined once again by Brian and also special guest Ed from Sapphire. How you guys doing today?
Doing
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
Ed's doing great and I'm doing good, so let's get a great tech show for the viewers.
Yeah, people have been like looking forward to all week ever since I talked to you Ed and started letting people know on Twitter, like, oh my God, you're gonna have Ed on. That's awesome because I've seen you on. I think you did the tech, didn't you? And you were also on Tech Talk. I saw you on there.
I've done the tech. I've done Tech Talk. We did Modders Inc. does their podcast. We have our own. Evidently, my radio voice works for streaming. I don't know what.
Yeah, it definitely is a radio voice. But we really wanted to get you on because there's so much going on right now with AMD. That's the hot issue right now. Everyone's talking about the 300 series, the Fury X. Started seeing benchmarks coming in today from those, and I'm really impressed so far what I saw on the Fury X with like the 4K numbers. And you were showing me the other day the new Nitro card from the R9 390, which is really cool looking.
Yeah, we're really proud of the Nitro series. If you guys want to get into it, there's a little bit of story behind what we did with putting that together.
Yeah, definitely.
We talked a while back as a company. We talked about we've always had a focus on PC gamers, but unlike everybody else, we never solidified that focus into a product line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we talked about how do we do this? If we do this, how do we do this? So we made a lot of specific choices. One of the first choices we made was, if we're going to do a gamer lineup, we don't want to do it the way everybody else has done it. Everybody else, when they do a gamer lineup, they slap some LEDs on a product, they put an aggressive, colorful design to the product,
and a big dragon on the side or something like that, or a skull.
And then they jack the price 20%. And that's a gamer product.
Basically, yeah, just increased price. That's the big benefit. That's the big benefit you get, right? As a consumer, you get to pay extra for it.
Exactly, you get to pay the idiot tax. Apple users know about that. So anyway,
Well, and you get more fancy lines and curves put in there, and you got the Veilside edition.
Well, because we all know that makes the card run better. So we said, forget that crap. First and foremost, how much quality can we pack in the card and not charge a premium? That was the mandate. We wanted to be able to pack it in, no premium though. We wanted to keep the price down at MSRP and eventually let it fall below. So we started with, let's do the boards in the highest quality we can do. So we used our Black Diamond chokes. We put solid 16K hour capacitors on it, dual ball bearing fans, and made this card as durable, as stable, and as long-lived as we possibly could. And all of that, by the way, we're able to do without adding a premium to the cost. Then we hit the controversy. And I can't believe how many people have complained about this. We didn't put a backplate on. Oh my God. And the reason we didn't add a backplate was because it adds to the cost of the manufacturing of the card.
Yeah, that was the first thing I asked you the other day. I was asking Ed, I was like, well, what about the backplate? Because I know everyone's always asking about backplates, and I was happy you actually shed some light on that for me, so now I'm thinking about them a little bit differently.
Well, backplates at the end of the day, basic thermodynamics, if you want to make a plate work as a heat sink, you've got to increase the surface area. A simple flat plate is a lousy heat sink. It just doesn't work real well. Also, the back of the video cards. On most video cards, there aren't any actual chips on the back. So any heat you evacuate is actually being pulled all the way through the PCB. So it's not efficient by any stretch of the imagination to use a backplate as a heat removal tool. That's a myth that works that way. And if you want it to work that way, you have to specially design it to work that way, which further increases the cost. And nobody does, because it just doesn't, it makes maybe a 2 to 3 degrees centigrade difference if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the reverse is often true. Most backplates actually increase temperature.
Yeah.
Because it can't get natural convection. You're not naturally moving the heat off. So backplates for heat sinks are a myth. Forget that for a minute.
Just
Oh,
looks
no,
it just
it's
looks
all
cool. It just looks cool.
cosmetics.
It looks cool.
It's all cosmetics. Like when the GTX 970 and 980 were released, the backplates were a big thing. You know, I've got my Gigabyte G1 here, and that had a backplate. You know, so I think it's just it's becoming a norm, even though it's adding cost to the card. It's becoming a cosmetic norm, and so.
Well, there is a legitimate gripe for backplates, or a legitimate reason. And this is what, because when you tell people, well, the only reason you want it for the looks, they don't want to be superficial.
Yeah,
So they say,
need a
no,
reason.
no. It stiffens the PCB.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
that's a legitimate point.
Yeah.
Except we looked at it and said, well, we can do that without adding costs. So we changed the way our shroud and our heat block system mount. And the result is we stiffen the PCB just like a backplate, no backplate needed. So
yeah, well, the Nitro looks really solid, and I like the color scheme on it too, the black and silver. I'm a Raider fan, like for life. I got a Raiders tattoo on my arm, like so. I'm all over the black and silver. I think that, and also I got a black and white build. That thing would look awesome in there. So I love that. I like that cooler.
What about the add-in option? Like, if people want to pay an extra $10, $15, would that be an idea that you guys have
we
thought
looked
of?
at that option, but it becomes more than $10 or $15 because you got to remember. So you take whatever it costs us to get the backplate. I'm not on that side of this, so I don't know. You take that, you add the normal marketing markup, but wait, you got to go a step further. Now you've introduced a whole new SKU, which changes the marketing markup significantly, and you've actually had to add another level to the production line. So by the time you do this, it's fairly expensive. In the scheme of things, it's fairly expensive to do this. Now, other companies have managed to apparently add a backplate and not raise the price. I would challenge people to look at the actual components of the build. Because
what chokes are they putting on there and stuff?
Well, did they go dual ball bearing fan? Did they go high quality chokes? Did they go with a high quality capacitor? Did they do? If you look at our, I wish I'd have brought one back here. I should have brought one back here to show you guys. Yeah. If you look at the card, we actually changed the I/O ports. I'm looking around me here to see if I've got one back here. I don't think I have one actually back here right now. And no, I don't. We actually even went further. I think we're the only card that's got the new I/O solution on it. So we've got one DVI, one HDMI, 3 DisplayPort.
And that's okay.
We went a long way to up the quality with this. I'm really proud of what we achieved.
I got it up on the screen here now. The I/O I'm looking at. So yeah, 3 DisplayPort. That's good. So people are gonna be maybe running like triple FreeSync monitor or something like that. That's gonna definitely help out.
Yeah. I'm actually using dual DVI at the moment.
Oh, yeah?
2 DVI ports. Yeah, because my G1's got 2 DVI outs, so I'm using both of them. On the Korean monitors.
What's the...
it is when I'm waiting. I'm waiting for like a good price on a 1440p overclockable panel here. And the only one that's come down is the Asus ROG, but that's plagued with problems. Like, literally plagued with problems. From what I'm reading, it's just getting so many shocking reviews, and I'm like, I ain't gonna like. It's literally probably about $600 here at the moment.
I'm talking about the Swift.
Yeah, the Swift.
Oh yeah, and plus you've already seen it. You already saw the screen in the store. It's terrible.
Yeah, you can pick it up for a bargain, but the problem is, I'm like, I don't want to get my hands into this, you know, because people are reporting 3 months after they buy it, like they got patches of black on their screen as well. It's like, how many problems are there with this monitor, and are they selling it out because they just want to get rid of it now? Like, and so I'm waiting.
Plus, it depends on what you game. I mean, are you a first-person shooter or are you a RPGer?
Everything, pretty much. I like to play FPS. Not as much as RPG, but I do play it. I reckon it's good for your health.
And MOBAs. I know you play MOBAs too.
If you're really enjoying MOBAs and RPGs, look at the ultra wides.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for next. Basically, I want a 21:9, 144 hertz, all that good stuff. 3440 by 1440. That's what I'm waiting on.
So on the MOBAs, are they actually rolling out native 21:9 support now?
Yes.
Oh wow, because I know on the competitive scene everyone has to have the same fixed resolution. So I wonder how that would work.
But a MOBA is not competitive. An RPG is not competitive. And I get what you're saying, Joker, but what I found is this: I've got the two LG 34-inch ultra wides. I've got the 2560 by 1080 with FreeSync, and then I've got the 3440 by 1440 curved.
Yeah, I like that. I like the look of that monitor.
Well, both monitors look gorgeous. The FreeSync monitor got a bad rap because it's got a narrow FreeSync band, but the resolution makes it pretty easy to get in that band. I mean, we've changed. FreeSync and G-Sync have changed the way we need to look at frame rates.
Yeah.
It used to be that we looked at the top end of the frame rate. You had to get it as high as you could to smooth it out. Well, now it's not about the top end, it's about the bottom end. You get that low number up just inside that FreeSync or G-Sync range, and suddenly your gameplay experience is perfect no matter what the top end is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I went from I had a 144Hz display like 2 years ago, the Asus VG248QE, and that I was like, I was wanting every game to run like 80, 90 FPS plus, and then I installed the G-Sync module like when it first came out, and that was just like, now it's really not that big of a deal. If I'm running around 60, even down to 50, it was still smooth.
Right.
It was still smooth even down, and I couldn't believe it. Like I would check my frame, I was like, I'm actually enjoying this at this frame rate, because I had become such a like 100 hertz plus snob that I was surprised it made that much of a difference. Because I thought 50 would still feel like 50, but it was silky smooth, and you couldn't even notice it unless you're watching the frame rate counter.
It has to do with the fact that there's a lot of myths about the way the eye and frame rates and everything work.
Well,
we don't
as far as I understand it, we can't see more than 24 FPS.
That's not correct.
I know. I'm just kidding.
We don't see in frames per second.
No, I know.
Use that to
We're
measure
biological. No one can measure what the average human. No one can measure what individuals can see.
Oh no, it's because
Biological,
it's just a constant beam of light you're seeing. I'm breaking balls because everyone's always saying that on my videos. Like, oh, you can't even see more than 24 FPS. So what's the difference? It's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
the key is you see change.
Yeah.
And that's what's making this so cool. Because when you go to a non-FreeSync or G-Sync monitor, when you go to a monitor that's a regular monitor, and your frame rate changes enough, the ability for the frame to render, there's a skip or a stutter when the frame rate changes to sync up. And that's what you see. That's why you can have a 300 frame per second game. Man, you can be running a game 300 frames per second with V-Sync off, and it dipped to 200, and you'll notice a stutter. You'll still see a stutter, where you can play a game at 50 frames per second steady, and it looks smoother.
Yeah, definitely, because you're just not seeing that big drop, because your eye is going to catch it. If the monitor's supporting that refresh rate, you're going to see that drop for sure.
Exactly.
Because I mean, I was playing 144 hertz, for ages before I got the G-Sync on like Battlefield 4, and I'd always be getting like around 150, 170 frames. But then it would drop to like 110, and it's like, why is this lagging all over the place? It's still 110 frames, and it's just because it didn't have that smooth transition. That's what like G-Sync is just awesome for that, and I know FreeSync is meant to be good as well. Or did I say G-Sync twice there? I meant to say FreeSync if I messed that up.
That's okay.
But yeah, like, I know, like, a lot of the concerns of some of my viewers was the limits on it only going down to like 48 frames and kind of cutting off there. But if you're spending the kind of money on that kind of panel anyway, and you're dropping down below that frame rate, you're doing something wrong anyway.
Well, the LG panel, first, the 48 I think is a conservative estimate. My own test shown it gets down to 40.
Okay.
And again, if you're an RPG player, anything much over 60 to 75 frames per second really doesn't change the gaming experience. But we're back to, this is why I like that resolution. 2560 by 1080 is something you can realistically do on a single video card. And a 390, for example, is more than enough to easily achieve, even in games like Witcher, that 40 frames per second or better at the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that the 21 by 9s at 1080? I've seen them. I wasn't a big fan at all. Like the
once you game in them, it changes everything.
Yeah, because I've always liked the idea of like triple monitors, but I didn't like having the black bars going down.
Right.
So that's why when I saw ultra wide, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. It's like, now they just need to catch up with the G-Sync and the 144 and all that stuff, and then I'll be set.
Sorry, I'll quickly drop in the competitive scene. I think League of Legends and Dota 2, they're MOBAs, but they're the most competitive games out there at the moment. Like they got the most prize pool money in them. But they do support 21:9, but StarCraft 2 doesn't. And Blizzard's reason is because it'll give you an unfair advantage, and that's actually legit.
What about people running triple monitors though? Are they stopping them?
Yeah, I've got to research more about that. But I know on a competitive scene, you can only do 16:9's the max on StarCraft 2 at the moment.
If you're limiting resolution, all you're doing is stretching it across triple monitors, so it won't really matter.
Yeah. That was another thing I didn't like about them, is that it looks stretched on the sides. That was another thing about the triple screens I never really liked.
Yeah. I don't like that stretchiness. Yeah.
That's why
the 21:9.
Yeah, those look good.
Yeah, I'm keen to see the LG one, the 21:9 1440p. That's really wide, the curved one.
It's a sexy monitor. It really is a sexy monitor.
Yeah, I had a friend was just looking at that today.
Apparently people are saying that's the one to get. Yeah, that's what people are saying. That's the one to get if you want to go 21:9. And I kind of agree. So.
I gamed on it, and I've got enough horsepower I can throw this around at 60 frames per second, so I'm not getting stutter. After gaming on it, I find that I like to go back down to 2560 by 1080. The reason why is the 3440 by 1440, you're beginning to push 4K in pixel size.
Yeah. I've seen some like retailers actually even listing them at 4K.
They're not, but they're getting close.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pixels to push. I mean, Joker, you're talking about 1440p. You understand, single card, it's really hard to push 1440p.
Absolutely.
Detail. And so this is a tough monitor to push max detail. 2560 by 1080 for me personally is that nice balance. You've got a really crisp, good-looking display. You get this TN panel, which makes the colors gorgeous. The FreeSync, which keeps the playback butter smooth, and then this wide aspect for your RPG. And I mean, Witcher, it's heaven to play Witcher on this thing.
So, what would you like going between like 2560 by 1440 to 3440 by 1440? Like, what would you say is the average frame hit on that? Like, or percentage-wise, percentage of impact.
I was probably seeing about a 15% dump.
That's not too bad. I mean, that's a good. You can just put on a good overclock and you should be set.
You could, but again, you're back to you almost need a multi-card solution.
Oh yeah.
To do it well. At the very least, you need the higher-end video cards.
Yeah.
And let's face it, most of us can't afford the higher-end stuff.
Well, that's what I'm all about. I'm always about the multiple card solutions.
Well, the 980 Ti came out, and I almost scoffed at the price. So.
It is good, though, on the single card, though. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the other way, I don't like multiple cards. It just introduces another problem. And that doesn't matter which brand, okay? It introduces another problem. It introduces another whole level of driver layer that needs to be dealt with, and potential issues. And in the early days of it, I hated the fact you'd get multiple cards, and you get a game, and game one, you'd get this 80% frame rate boost. And game two, it was like you didn't have two cards, you only had one.
Yeah, it sucks when that happens.
The stuttering as well. That was terrible back in the day.
Well, back in the that's gotten better though. I mean, that's gotten better.
I mean, that's why I've been burned by dual GPUs. I just won't go back, and I've tell all my viewers like I'm a single GPU kind of guy. I just can't go back to that. It's burned in my memory. Those memories of playing a game and it's like.
Well, I know why. I mean, why I wound up going SLI is because playing at 144 hertz was basically the only thing I could do to basically getting the frames that I wanted. You know, in games like Battlefields, it's like, well, if I'm going to get this kind of monitor, I'm only going to be running games at 60 or 70. What's the point? That's why I started going double cards, and then I started to see the usefulness of it even more, especially pushing games at max settings, even at like 1080p. When I had my two 980s, there was some games that would really stress that, like Witcher 3, GTA 5 games like that were really, really tough to run, even at 1080p.
Well, see, that's the other thing too. Most people don't realize even 1080p at max detail isn't something that's simple to push all the time.
No, it's not.
So it's back to like I said, for me, it's about the fact that if I didn't have this job, if I didn't get the video cards for free, I wouldn't run the cards I run. I would run stuff like the 380.
Yeah.
Because it's real world. It's what most people can afford. I mean, I know there are enthusiasts out there that always want to push the edge, but the majority of people just want to be able to play their games at 1080 and have some fun and make it look good and keep the price down.
Absolutely, yeah. That is definitely the majority. I remember that that Steam survey they did a while back, and they were like something like 80% of gamers or more were still running just 1080p, single card solutions. So it's definitely the majority. And I think because I am on the higher end of the scale, sometimes I forget that, and I'm always
you're like on the highest end.
I know
980 Ti's is ridiculous.
I know, and then when I wind up talking in my videos like that's the norm, like everyone's out there running that. I'm like, oh yeah, this game's really well optimized. It's running great on two 980 Ti's, and everyone's like sitting here like, but I have a 750. It's like, well, yeah, sorry about that, but I don't know.
Definitely focus on the single card first when you do the performance review.
Well, that's why when I do the performance reviews now, I always test single card versus SLI, so I can try to keep it a little bit fair, even if it is on a higher end card. Try to give as much information as I can. I mean, I was going over Batman yesterday. I think you saw the video. We could move right into that now. That's a good topic. A lot of people are. I think, if there's anything that can unite gamers, whether you're on Team Red or Team Green or what have you, everyone is united right now with Batman being terribly optimized. It doesn't matter what side you're playing on.
Yeah, game doesn't work title. Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, we can go back quite a few games and see there's a problem in this industry that's beginning to happen. And forget red or green team for a minute. We don't need to get into specifics for this. There is, when you buy, one of the great things about PC gaming is the fact that you have choices wide open to you. You can buy a $100 video card, you can buy a $1,000 video card, you can buy a $100 microprocessor, you can put in 8 gigs, 16 gigs, 32 gigs of RAM, you can have SSDs. You can build your gaming rig to be what you want it to be, and that's wonderful. Brands don't matter when it comes to the choices you make except for you personally. So if you like one company, don't like another company. All of this is what makes PC gaming amazing. It's not like console where you're stuck with what they give you and that's it. But when we start having software development force us to choose brands, not performance, brands, to determine how well our games run, that's bad for PC gaming.
Yeah, and that's what GameWorks is basically doing right now.
Yeah.
And because that definitely has driven my purchasing decisions because I like all the graphics and the nice stuff. And, since I've been using NVIDIA, the other day I did that video on the 300 series. Everyone's like, oh, Joker's just an NVIDIA fanboy. I was like, no, I built a system for my needs so that I can have what I want. And I wanted GameWorks stuff because I like the way it looks, even if it is bad. I know in my head it's bad for gamers. But then I also want my games to look like that. So that's why I use it.
At the end of the day, you're the consumer. These guys, it's true, right? AMD and Nvidia, they're just having a big pissing contest. It's like Samsung and Apple. And at the end of the day, this is what I've been saying before in the past. The consumer is the guy who loses out when these guys do the kind of shit that they do. It's the consumer that loses out. And that's what's happening with GameWorks. AMD, they can't get access to the source code, can't optimize the game for their graphics cards. Bang. And
it's worse than can't get access to the source code. So let's go back a game, and let's go back to Witcher 3 for a minute and talk about Hairworks. Now, yes, I know I work for Sapphire, and yes, people are going to take this with a grain of salt, but follow my argument for a minute. So Hairworks hits, and only 2 video cards on the planet seem to do well with it, and that's the 980 and the 970. Everything else craps out when it's turned on. But they find the fix for it is to lower the tessellation level. And suddenly everybody's card works well, including the older NVIDIA cards.
Yeah, I even turned that down. It was even taxing for me at 1440. I wound up dropping it down to ×2. It was just really taxing.
We'll see. The Maxwell GPUs have a benefit of processing tessellation and geometry better. So let's talk about tessellation for just a second. Tessellation is basically, so you've got a game that draws a triangle. And you take that triangle and you split it into 3 triangles. And then you split each of those into 3 triangles and so on and so forth to get just an incredible amount of detail. And Hairworks, the principle of Hairworks is that's what's happening with individual strands of hair within the game to allow and by the way, AMD did basically the same thing with Tress Effects.
Which I thought looked better, by the way. I thought Tress Effects looked a lot more natural.
You didn't see the early versions.
Oh, well before the
Yeah,
game
yeah,
actually shipped.
I can
I
tell
heard
you
some
stories
pretty. I
about
heard
Lara
like
Croft.
I think I know because when the game first came out and I was trying to run on
disappearing
SLI,
and
it was not great on SLI at first. They didn't fix it until later on, and it had issues at launch. But yeah, I can
But
imagine.
But the whole point that hit with Witcher was the tessellation effect was set to a ridiculously high level, just a stupid high level.
And the anti-aliasing was 8 times MSAA on the hair as well.
Right, so it was a really, really nuts thing. Now, here's the problem. The only way you can see any of this was to stop the game, take a still shot, and zoom in to about 400 power. I want somebody to explain to me why any game developer, and by the way, we found out that the people that developed Witcher didn't have access to this. This was all done by another company, let's say. Why on earth we had to have the settings so high that if you zoomed in, you could tell if the wolf had perked that morning? Okay, we don't care if the wolf had his hair washed. Well, we're busy killing him. We're not looking at that.
Yeah.
And there was just no excuse other than to cripple performance. There was no excuse for this to be in place.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
It's
They had
bad
this.
for gamers.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary for it to be at that level. Just like with Witcher 2, the Uber sampling, that was just ridiculous too. It's like,
Right.
who's even going to see that? No one's going to see that level of detail on a 1080p screen. It's not going to happen. And it ran. I don't think anyone can still run Uber sampling today.
But before we go on, right? AMD and Nvidia are both guilty of doing this to each other, right? This is not just
They've done it in the past.
you know,
AMD has done it in the past, yes.
And
Yeah.
so going forward, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. See, my thinking on it is, at the end of the day, GameWorks, this is what people don't realize. GameWorks for Nvidia is a huge, I think probably the principal goal of GameWorks is marketing. Every time you're opening a game, bang, Nvidia logo slapped in your face.
Right.
How many times would you open the game? What? Every game, average 30 times? 30 views per person. Huge, insane, right? The marketing implications of using GameWorks is huge. And I think people don't take that for granted, but I think that's the principal goal, is getting that, every time you open a game, Nvidia. And so that,
I was going to say, I'd go further. I think there's a subliminal goal.
yeah. And then,
so
of course,
the way
there's
it's
other
meant to be
goals that we're
played.
talking about. Well, then there's the other things we're talking about now. Obviously,
What I
optimizing
meant
it for
was-
their graphics cards.
What I meant was the novice gamer, most gamers don't give a crap about technology. They care about playing their game.
Yeah.
So they go and they throw the game up and they try to play it and they have trouble with brand A. And their buddy who's got brand B goes, no, the game runs fine for me. So they rush out and buy brand B, presuming brand A is bad now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's some subliminal marketing with that as well. And here's what I love. NVIDIA will tell you, and I love the way they say this, no money changes hands with developers for the use of GameWorks. That technically is correct. However, to say that GameWorks is not being paid to be put into games is a lie. These modules are modules that developers do not have to put time and resources in to produce. So
They're saving money by having them take care of it.
they can focus it in other directions.
Yeah.
They also get additional marketing for free from NVIDIA, money they would have had to spend for marketing. So there is a financial incentive for companies to do this,
Yeah.
and to say otherwise is crap. But we're still back to, it doesn't matter. If AMD was doing the same thing, I'd be standing up screaming AMD shouldn't do it either. And they have in the past, by the way. This is bad for gamers. AMD and NVIDIA need to focus on making GPUs, make them fast, make them efficient, make them reasonably priced, and let developers develop software and keep hardware companies out of it.
I
think at least on the base level, they need to let AMD have a chance of giving them the source code and letting them put in their optimization. I think that is
that's
fair.
that's
I mean,
fair. That's what should happen.
But
They
I mean,
don't give
I
the
can.
developers the source code. Why would they give it to AMD?
Yeah, I know. I mean, like the Hairworks and Flameworks and all that crap. I can understand they develop that in house. They want to make some money on it, but the basic, source code. I don't know. Like, there's two sides of the fence, and I'm definitely against, locking out AMD from actually getting the base game running properly. I mean, the base of the game. So I don't know. It's a big, but ultimately I'm going to say, in a capitalist society, this is the result, right?
True.
Like, these guys are both publicly listed companies. Their main goal is to make profit and grow. And so I've been saying this, at the end of the day, it's always about the financial side of things. You got to look at that. And they're going to keep doing GameWorks. They're not going to stop doing it. Basically.
I mean, it's obviously it is bad for gamers, and but really, what's the solution there? I mean, if they're not going to, if they're not going to give the source code to AMD, and they're just going to keep on building on top of it, it's going to get even more and more demanding, and they're going to be arming themselves into more and more games. Then really, there's really no other way for it to go other than because they're not going to stop. Not if they're making money doing it.
I think that that's the key. The consumers are the ones that have to force the stop. Developers aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a piece. I don't know if it's going to appear on Sapphire Nation or not. I wrote a piece talking about this, and one of the solutions I suggested for people is if a game is being developed that is using this kind of proprietary technology, don't buy it until it goes on Steam sale. I'm not going to tell you don't buy the game. We want to play the games, okay? Some of these games are great games, like Witcher again. But if we all waited until those proprietary games go on a Steam sale at half price, you just really cut into the developer's income. And that's a clear message to the developer. We don't want the proprietary crap. But again, you're back to it. It's a neat idea, but the key is to get enough gamers to do it to reach a critical mass.
Yeah. Real quick, we had a question coming from Dusty Rhodes. He wants to know if Nvidia is scared that their hardware won't stack up to AMD, and is that why they do everything they're doing with GameWorks? I mean, I would say not really, because I mean, when you look at benchmarks anyway right now, for the most part, they're running it with GameWorks stuff off. And they are going neck and neck, like the 980 is going neck and neck with the 390X. The Fury X is going neck and neck with the 980 Ti and the Titan X. So, most of those benchmarks are all run with GameWorks off anyway. So I don't really think that's the issue. And those are the numbers that people remember, are the ones that they see on the review sites before they buy a card.
I don't think it's scared. I think it's strong arm marketing tactics.
Yeah. I think they're more concerned about getting it into games so that they can make more money than they are about trying to cover their ass for performance reasons.
Right.
I don't think that's the case at all. And we were talking a little bit about Batman. I wanted to touch back on this again because I've seen the performance on Nvidia's side, but everyone was saying it's bad on AMD too. Have you had a chance to try it yet on your car? Were you having issues as well with AMD stuff?
I haven't loaded up Batman.
No.
Yeah, I haven't bought it. I saw your review. I'm like, no, I'm staying away from this game for the 10.
A couple of others, and I'm like, I'll spending money on this.
Yeah. Dude, I've had headaches in the past with games. Like, yeah, I'll avoid it now. Hey, no thank you.
Yeah, I got it free with my cards, and I was like, "Is there any way I can get a refund on this from Nvidia?"
Well, did anyone give it a rave review? Who gave it rave reviews? I want to know.
PS4 owners. That's about it. And today the PC gamers were actually all over on the PS4 Metacritic page, and they were downvoting the game on the PS4 side as well.
See, I don't agree with that. I mean, if it's okay, it's made for console. Fair enough. Give console users their,
It's just
day in the sun.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense that people are saying it looks better on the console than on the PC. There's a couple of screenshots floating around and it's looking better on there.
Arguably, that's what some of these, I'd say Sony would have an interest in making their games look good on the console because they're not even bothered with the PC. They're not into the PC market. Their sole concern is console.
But I haven't even really seen that question raised because that's usually what I would see a lot of people asking would be, oh, did they do this just to sell more copies on console? But I think
consoles make more money, man. Like the console game sales, they make more money than PC.
Well, I was saying that I think that's the question a lot of people would usually raise, but I think right now everyone's just saying like, no, they had this Iron Galaxy studio working on the game and they just made an absolutely terrible port. I think that's everyone's opinion right now, at least from what I've seen so far.
Well, I mean,
It,
I'm sort of putting a bit of blame on Nvidia too, because they put their name on that, their marketing, their brand on that. They should have said no.
If
You're
I
not
was
releasing
Nvidia right
this.
now, I'd be wanting to get as
Yeah.
far away from this game as possible.
I would.
Well,
If
yeah.
the PR team's got any sense, they're running like crazy right now, going, "We have no idea what this was."
Nvidia, the way it's
Yeah.
meant to be played, 30 FPS. Like, no, it's not meant to be played like that.
Well, see, I think, yeah, well, there'll be something in the EULA that says, look, we got to see this game before it's released. Like, what did they run it on? Like, okay, 3, Titan X's. Okay, it looks good to go. Ship it out.
I mean, even if, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
I was going to say that, unfortunately, though, is something that we've seen in this industry for a while now. I mean, I made this comment about E3. You watch these E3 videos, and they're claiming gameplay. Well, of course the gameplay looks like that. They're running it on like 5 video cards and 3 microprocessors to throw up 1080p, okay? It's not optimized. It's crap. And then we as gamers, though, get all upset because it doesn't look that way on release day. At some point, we have to accept that. I don't know that you're wrong. That they didn't look at this running on a really super ridiculous high-end rig and go, "Hey, that looks awesome," and walked away.
Well, see, I saw the Doom demo and I wet my pants. Like, I was like, whoa, this looks good. So I hope they keep that as,
that I
graphical
find
fidelity in that game.
That
as
I
they
find
did in the
believable.
E3
I find that believable because of the engine that it's on. The id engines are really well optimized for console, not so much for PC. Doesn't it's because it's on OpenGL. It doesn't support SLI. I don't think it supports Crossfire either, does it?
I don't believe it does. I don't believe it does.
Yeah, it doesn't support multiple GPU solutions, capped at 60 frames. So I know a lot of people that aren't fans of those engines, but like I played Wolfenstein, both of them, because the games were that good that I was willing to put up with the engine for those games. But other than that, I don't like the engine. I'm not a fan, but I know it's well optimized for consoles because that's what it was originally made for. Was Rage when that came out? They're like, look, we got a game running at 60 FPS on the Xbox 360, which was at that time we were like, ooh, that's made people stand up and pay attention a little bit. But
well, actually, before we move on, actually, I was going to say, so with GameWorks, its conclusion: good for business for the said company, bad for consumers. I think we'll conclude that, and then we'll move on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that. I think even the most vehement Nvidia fanboy knows that deep down in his heart that it's bad for gamers. Gamers in general. But it's a guilty pleasure though. You're just like, I want to see that fog works and all that stuff.
I'd say it's smart for business, right? But that's But let's move on. So, because some of my viewers wanted me to talk about DX12, and there's this big thing going around that DX12 is going to benefit AMD graphics cards more than it's going to benefit Nvidia graphics cards, and that's something that I want to talk. I want to talk about it because the Unreal Engine 4. Have you guys seen that demo that's out?
Which one? There's a lot of them.
It's in the open. It's like in the open world, like just hills and trees. It looks goddamn awesome. Like it looks amazing.
The last one I saw was one in an apartment. I don't know. There's like a new one every week. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, true. But it does look impressive, and the Unreal Engine 4 does look really good. So I'm wondering, like, and this is the thing for AMD. If it does run a lot better on AMD cards, they need to get in there and do a demo. They need to get something up there that if their hardware is legitimately posting huge gains, they need to make something that's optimized for their hardware. And then if Nvidia tries and copies it, you'll see AMD's just massing the charts.
For a real look at the performance of the hardware, games are a lousy choice. The reason why is, and both companies, again, have done this in the past, they optimize the drivers to a specific game benchmark, and that becomes a mess. If you want to see the real advantage of the horsepower, what you do is take anything that is direct compute, throw out CUDA, go back to direct compute, look at Bitcoin mining, for example,
and definitely favors AMD.
But didn't it start favoring Maxwell after they released?
No, actually it took a specially designed Bitcoin mining program that was CUDA optimized for it to begin to catch up with AMD. When it comes to raw computing power, AMD leads on pretty much every test that gets done. So when you see this now, 3D Mark did that test for DX12. that allows you to see some of the processing power. And it's just wild to watch it because the lead isn't just noticeable, it's ridiculous, the lead that's taking place. So potentially DX12 could be a huge win for AMD.
Yeah, I saw one thing, or I can't remember which site it was. I wanted to bring it up to show the exact numbers, but they were winning out on draw calls on DirectX 12 AMD.
Well, see, AMD now, this is what I'm going to say. AMD now, I've been saying this for a long time. They need to get proactive now and put their eggs into DX12. And they need to say, hey, this is what our cards can do. You know, and they need to get behind developers, get a game out for DX12 that runs better on our hardware. They need to start doing that proactively as a company. You know, beat Nvidia to the race. Because like everything in the past I've seen with AMD has kind of been reactive, and I'd say arguably this recent release of their graphics cards is reactive in a way, like Fury X to Titan X, and
they definitely got out ahead though on the HBM stuff, even though Pascal's plan in the future.
I know.
If you look at it like this though, I mean, they hit fired the first HBM shot here, with the high bandwidth memory. Then before that, they had Mantle before DirectX 12 was a thing, so they are pushing things forward in those arenas.
Then FreeSync to G-Sync,
First Joker, I need to take you out behind the woodshed for a minute.
Okay, go on.
So I saw your video about the 300 series launch.
All right.
I despise the term rebrand because it's a lie. It isn't true.
And you educated me that the other day, and now I was in agreement. I was talking to other people today on Twitter. I was like, no, it's a refresh, kind of thinking of like the Haswell refresh. It's it's the same architecture, yes, but they're doing a lot of new things.
Right. I mean, you look at the numbers we're seeing right now. The 390 is running neck and neck and even exceeding the 290X, which means there was obviously a performance bump. The 390X is running right with 980s.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Before you had, if you go back to the 200 series, so you had the 290 was a little below a 970, and the 290X was below a 980, above a 970. Fast forward to today, 970 is the bottom of those four cards. 290 or 390 is now in the middle, and then at the top you've got a tie.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see that. But moving over to Fury's getting some grief because of some of the stuff we're looking at, and I don't think that's fair. Let's start with what you said about pushing the technology forward. AMD spent a lot of time and effort in the development of the whole HBM architecture.
Yeah.
And you'll notice, by the way, that the competition has been so impressed, they're going to embrace the second generation of this architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's study history for a moment. If Nvidia had done this level of development, nobody but Nvidia would have this.
That's very true.
Okay, so first, AMD should be applauded. They advanced architecture for the entire industry in what they did. Fury X is the first run at this architecture. I made the joke, but it's not really a joke. Somebody's got to lead, somebody's got to follow.
Yeah.
And AMD took the chance. They've jumped off the bridge with this. The architecture is looking really impressive.
Especially at 4K. That from the numbers I've seen so far at 4K, it's really impressive.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Even with the 4 gigabytes of the video memory, it's still going out there. Even I was looking at I'm looking at Shadow of Mordor right now on the Tech Power Up review at 4K, which I know when I tested on my 980 Ti's, it was using about 5.6 gigabytes of video memory. So here they are now with their 4 gigs. They're averaging 52.5 frames on Shadow of Mordor at 4K, and the Titan X is just below that at 52.1, and that's got 12 gigs. 980 Ti is even below that at 49.9.
So they're really good.
They're very, very close. That's a very small marginal difference there, but the fact that they're beating it with only 4 gigs is amazing.
Yeah, it shows the memory bandwidth. It shows how important the bandwidth is. And that's the exciting part about the Titan launch. Well, not the Titan launch, duh.
The Fury launch.
The Fury launch, man, I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
Well, yeah, it's all about the 4K for sure. I mean, that is where it shines. It was at 4K, that card.
It's actually surprised me a lot. I was really impressed with the numbers just for 4 gigabytes of this stuff. It was putting out some really impressive figures. That was
Boss just pointed out in the chat as well that AMD were the first ones to use GDDR5.
Yeah.
As well. AMD's been pushing this. Okay, they're getting a lot of grief, and they don't deserve the grief they're getting for this. They're trying to advance the technology. You can't advance the technology without a bump. For the last decade, from the GPU perspective, we have not had anything truly new. Everything has been the same thing, tweaked and bumped, tweaked and bumped, tweaked and bumped. And then Fury introduces, and for the first time in a decade, we've got truly a new architecture when it comes to the way video cards are made that's going to change the future of the way video cards are made. You know what? It may not be killing a 980 Ti.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's because they're reaching the limitation of the GCN right now, I think. But they've got the
I think so too.
And now that they've got the HBM, and I think on the next generation, it's going to be really exciting if they do have a new architecture to take over from GCN and the HBM compared together for like the top end card. That's going to be really impressive.
We'll see. Like the last few generations, we've seen Nvidia get the lead with the Titan release. And then obviously they released their 780, and they had that big performance gain over the competitor AMD. And see, I think I was a little bit upset, I guess, this time. I wanted to see AMD come out with just something that smoked them away. Like, we're talking 20 to 30% gain over Nvidia, their 980 Ti, for example. And I think some people, I guess, like myself, I'm a little bit upset. I want to see AMD be in the lead for at least a good half a year, because Nvidia have had, that with the Titan X, they released that. They had a good 3-month block or 4-month block where they're the leader.
They definitely would have. They definitely would have had a lead though if that Ti didn't come out right at the last minute. They would have been. I mean, that was a good shot fired by
a lead,
Nvidia.
But I'm talking like actually being the leader in the graphics. Like the actual wow, this is our competitor. We've got a smashing advantage here, and so that's. I think I'm a little bit upset about that.
I think they did, but it's not in the direction everybody expects. We're reaching a point with PC gamers where you're beginning to hit a saturation point in frame rates. There's only so much horsepower you can really push. And so you've got that taking place. Now, compare a 980 Ti or a Titan X. Remember, the Titan X released at $1,000. AMD just released the equivalent performance at $650. The 980 Ti had to get pushed up and released at that price point because Nvidia knew it was in trouble.
Yeah.
And so you've got that. You've got the fact that the price got driven down, which, by the way, is good for gamers. So the price got driven down. But you can take this and go a step further. Okay? Do you really think we're going to see anything exceeding a 980 in performance from Nvidia in an ITX format?
No.
We know for a fact AMD's getting ready to introduce one. They've already showed it to people.
No, the Nvidia has always just done the smaller cards, like it'd be like a 960 or something like that, a 970 if you were lucky. But really, 960 is the only kind of stuff they do for ITX form factor.
I mean, we're taking this down to ITX form factor, super small, super compact. AMD's got a big win with the fact that their performance per wattage is way down compared to what it was. They've really, really got the wattage package down much lower than they were expecting it to be. So, I mean, yeah, it's not something that I look at and go, oh my God, the benchmarks are amazing and it's blowing me away. But I look at the technology. I look at the fact we're looking at a first driver release. These haven't been optimized yet. I'm impressed where the technology's heading. I can't wait for the next generation.
Yeah, that's what it says to me the most is like I see it now and I'm like, okay, this is kind of in its infancy. It's the first generation of HBM. What they do next time is going to be really exciting. This is already exciting, but it's going to be even better next time around.
I think next time around, Nvidia is going to have to really up their game.
Oh well, Pascal is definitely going to do that. Then they're going to both have high bandwidth memory contenders out there. So
yeah.
That's.
And I mean, I'm looking at the power consumption figures. I mean, the 980 Ti is beating the Fury X by quite a bit there on those power efficiency performance.
Yeah, but I think he's talking more so about coming from the previous generation, though.
That's my point. There's a big difference there that nobody expected.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see where this is going. And again, remember, they're not done yet. So we got the Fury X, we've got the Fury that they announced during the presentation, we've got the Nano that they announced during the presentation, we got a dual chip version that's coming out. I mean, this is an impressive launch for the high end.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing. Are they're going to be doing the dual chip VG cards, not just in that what was it, the AMD Quantum they're calling it?
Right, they're actually doing a card.
Are the board partners getting a hold of that though, or is that just reference?
Okay, let me back up. That's what I heard is from the presentation. That's what I took. Officially, they haven't said anything through board partners yet.
Gotcha. Well, that would be interesting to see. I mean, because if I was going to check one of those out, it would definitely be. I would want an aftermarket solution. Unless they're probably gonna go water cooled. I would imagine right out of the gate on that card too, though. And
you might be surprised. The numbers on these cards, I'm not sure they had to go water cooled this time.
No, I haven't actually seen any of the temperature numbers yet. I've been mostly just concerned with the performance, it's crushing it at 4K. Like I think at 1440, from what I've seen, for the most part, the Ti and the Titan X are edging it out. But when you see it at 4K though, and it's at $650, it's impressive what it's doing. And I'm going to bring up I'm going to see what the temperatures are.
What that is showing is that when you're getting that high, memory bandwidth is just as important as the amount of memory.
Yeah. So this, according to Tech Power Up, it was running at 28 degrees idle, 60 degrees under load, and 60 degrees still overclocked under load. That's pretty darn good.
Mm. Do you know what water cooler they're using on it? Like, it better not be an Ace Tech.
Cooler Master, which surprised me because I was always under the impression it was going to be an Ace Tech, but it's the Cooler Master.
Yeah, I've had an Ace Tech before, man. 2,000 hours, boop, gone, and then my CPU cooked, the thermal safety kicked in. I was like,
yeah, I know you were telling me. I think it was last week on the show, right? You were saying you didn't really, you weren't too keen on those.
Yeah, but if they've got actually a good OEM there, then that's good. That's really good. One thing I will point out, AMD is better at international pricing, and I'm going to point this out.
Yes, a lot of people were saying that today.
But like you've got, it's coming out in Australia at 950 AUD, for example. The Titan X, the 980 Ti is 1,000, right? And then the same retail price in friggin' the States. So I've said this before, Nvidia need to fix their international pricing.
Yeah.
They need to do that, man, because if Fury X is cheaper overseas, a lot of people are going to be snapping up the AMD cards.
That's what I'm saying. People were saying that today to me because sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to buy a 980 Ti, but then I saw the price. It was a joke. Like, no, I'm not buying that. No way. So if the Fury X is actually a lot cheaper here in Japan, I'll probably pick one up.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's the same price in the U.S. for the Fury X and the 980 Ti. They're both $650. But I had people tweeting at me today that they were happy to see it because they live in the U.K. and it's about 500 pounds in the U.K. whereas the Ti is up around 650 pounds. So that's over $200 more. That's a lot of money.
That's a significant.
And see, there's no excuse for that, right? There's, Nvidia is a massive company. They can get what you'd say on the exchange rates, they'd be getting market rates pretty much. Maybe throw in a few more pips for like exchange fees or whatever, but there's no reason that there should be that massive markup there. That's a load of crap, And, even me, I can get freaking near mid-market rates on the exchange rate. I'm an individual. So, there's no excuse for these super high prices internationally. I don't agree with it, and I think AMD does a better job there, as you pointed out with the UK. And so that's going to be a great thing for AMD. They can take advantage of the international sales.
Yeah, and that's not something I wasn't even really aware of that until today when people started saying that.
Oh well, I started researching it yesterday. I looked it up and I was like, yeah, this is usually what happens, And I've made a video way back in the past about international pricing and how I thought Nvidia cards were a bit overpriced compared to AMD on the international scene, and and like they're shipping from what? Where are they shipping from? Somewhere in Southeast Asia. It's like I live right next door to where they're shipping. I should be getting this thing cheaper than someone in the States.
Do you guys have a rough VAT tax in Japan like they do in the UK? Is something similar?
It's not like that. There's an 8% sales tax on the end here.
Because that VAT tax is brutal.
Yeah, but usually you get charged here in the prices before you pay the price. Like everyone in Japan, I don't even know why this is legal. They market prices here in Japan before tax, and it's annoying. So
wow.
But even the before tax price is a rip off. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that's yeah, AMD's pricing's better. I'm going to say that straight away in the international scene.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm looking up here about 290 and 290Xs getting flashed to 390Xs. That's something my viewers wanted me to talk about.
It's a waste of time. The chips are physically, there's enough physical difference. I'm not sure it would work, but if it did, there's not enough. There's so much physical difference. You're not going to get the advantage. You might get a frame rate boost. You can get that without flashing the BIOS.
Yeah.
You just go in and do the
essentially,
the clock
essentially what they're having to do anyway before they do it to make sure it's even going to work is they have to overclock their memory to get it at the same speed as the 390X, right. And that not everyone's going to be able to hit that because that's a pretty significant overclock there to get that.
And even if they achieve the overclocks, they're still not going to get the performance. I did in-house testing with this, and a 290 versus a 390 clock for clock, the 390 was about 8% faster.
That's
and
good, yeah.
That has to do with the fact that there was a lot of optimization of the code that went in. I think what we're seeing with this is we're seeing the GCN architecture fully matured. Yeah. These chips are now at the most optimal production. They're getting their best speeds. They're getting their best power consumption. The code has been optimized to the point where this architecture can go. And we're seeing these chips fully matured all the way out. And what's really impressive is think about this. We're talking about an architecture that's over a year and a half old, and yet it's competing head-to-head with 980s.
Yeah.
Nvidia had to go through two architectures to keep up with this. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. GNC... Or
GCN.
Yeah.
GCN.
GCN. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's been around since 2011 and still competing with the latest Nvidia stuff.
For GNC. But the GCN architecture is really impressive. It shows that AMD was ahead of where they were, where everybody perceived them to be. It's got a lot of life in it, and it's just now beginning to really get pressed.
Yeah, it was designed for longevity, with longevity in mind, and it's done that.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're heading into the home stretch here. So if anyone does have any questions for Brian, Ed, or myself, you guys can fire them into the chat as we're going to be coming into like the last 10 to 15 minutes here of the show. So if you have any questions, you can fire them in there now as we're finishing up the topics that we have here. But yeah, so fire your questions in there now and see what we can get to.
I would love to take some questions. That's always that's where the good stuff comes in.
Yeah. Someone was saying something earlier. Oh, yeah. Someone asked earlier. We'd already kind of touched on it. He wanted to know if I thought it was an issue with the 4 gigabytes of memory on the Fury X versus the 6 gigabytes of 980 Ti. And if you go look at the benchmarks, like Tech Power Up, Guru 3D, wherever, you're going to see that the Fury X is actually beating out the 980 Ti in everything in 4K and most things on the Titan X even, because the high bandwidth memory is definitely helping it out a ton. It's not being as much of a limiting factor as you might think, only having 4 gigabytes of video memory because of the HBM.
Yeah, I'm gonna read up on that. It's really interesting. This is a whole new technology, right? So that's gonna be actually really interesting. I want to read up a full in-depth article on that. Hey, that'd be really good to read. I'm reading up here on Tech Report. Is it? They've reviewed the Fury X and they're talking about the actual frame rates. Like you got the 99th percentile scatter plots. And the Fury X is, I mean, this is obviously, it's just been released, right? So it's got some problems there, but I'd love to see AMD really get their drivers and get these things running smooth as butter. That'd be really good. Because I noticed
historically a driver generation or two sees AMD get a pretty good boost. So I'd say that if we're getting these kind of numbers now, wait for 1 or 2 driver updates and just hang on for the ride.
Yeah. So yeah, I tried an R9 290 last year. I've tried it. Yeah, I got it on Amazon for really cheap. I think it was like $255, but it was a gigabyte one. And when I first got it, the performance was pretty good, but then it dropped down a week later, and a lot of my viewers said the VRM was overheating. And so I was like, but honestly, AMD drivers have come a long way, and I'm going to say that back from when I used to use a 5850, was it? Way back in the day. The one before.
That's a little bit back.
Yeah, and back then there was some real stutter problems, but they've come a long way since then, especially when I was playing the AAA titles. So
Marajanovic asked a question, if I can, real quick. I'm going to address because we kind of addressed this earlier. The
yeah,
question he asked was, "Is the R9 382 gig the same as the 285 2 gig?" No, it is not. The
it's
the
Tonga, yeah.
three, the 380 is it's basically the same architecture, but the 380 is closer to and in fact exceeding 280x speeds, which the 285 couldn't do. The 380 also makes use of faster memory. It's got better memory architecture.
Yeah,
So it is a different card. Now the architectures will work together in Crossfire because the base architecture is the same, but the chip itself is a different chip. 1680 by 1050. I'll tell you this: at 1080p, the 380 is a really tough card to not buy. It's a near perfect card for 1080p gaming, high detail level in most games, and the few that it can't don't have to go all the way to medium. They just have to tweak down a little bit, and
Yeah,
they
it
can
dropped down
still
like anti-aliasing and stuff.
right. The 4 gig card versus the 8 gig card at 1080p is not, or versus the 2 gig card, I'm sorry, is not as relevant. But when we decided which card to include in the Nitro lineup, we decided, since we could keep the price point reasonable, to go ahead and go with the 4 gig instead, to just give you the extra options.
And the Nitro, that's only on the 390, right? Not the 390X?
Well, that's correct. We're trying to keep the lineup very simple. The idea is the whole lineup is built for gamers, period. We don't want to overcomplicate this. We don't want to convolute this. So we've got a single 360, a single 370, a 380, a 390. We're looking at expanding the lineup to bring in maybe one more card. We'll discuss that at a later date, possibly. But this is designed to keep it as simple for gamers as possible. You've got a budget, you want a gaming card, you want to play games. Nitro is easy. Find which Nitro fits your budget, fits your performance numbers. There it is.
Definitely.
yeah.
Nate,
Did I say this
sorry, go
earlier?
ahead.
I'm pretty. I was just in the morning still, but yeah, like I said before, and I've said this before to my viewers. Sapphire is the only card that I've had a decent experience on with my ATI AMD history. Like every other card I've tried on the AMD ATI side has always had a problem, except a Sapphire card. So that's that was my 5850.
I appreciate hearing that. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Next card I get is going to be a Sapphire on the AMD side anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of my viewers share the same sentiment when I got the R9 290, and they were like, "Why didn't you get the Tri X? Was it your big chunky cooler? Yeah,
The Vapor X or the Tri X?
Vapor X. Yeah, Vapor Tri. Yeah, it's like, why didn't you get that? And I was like, oh, it was $60 more plus I paid import duties and stuff. So and I've got a WinForce here on the 970. Yeah, I got a 970 here that works pretty well. So I thought, hey,
And that's what's funny. When we started this whole concept of the Nitro, everybody that we had talked to was like, oh, gamers will pay an extra $10, an extra $15 for a video card with a couple of extra features. You'll be surprised how many won't.
Yeah.
Because they understand it's not real. It doesn't add. The extra features you can add on top of what exists on the Nitro now on our lineup don't really affect the longevity or stability of the card. Why pay extra for those things?
Well, I mean, plus nowadays, tough economy, so.
Exactly.
So the average person, man, I'm telling you now, the middle class is slowly becoming the lower class. Jeez.
Yeah, we had Nate in chat wanted to know why the 390X had 8 gigabytes of video memory, whereas the Fury X has 4 gigabytes. That just comes back to the HBM.
Yeah.
It's the HBM. It's different than what you're seeing on the 390X.
HBM Gen 1 has the limitation of 4 gigabytes.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just Gen 1. I mean, anyway, at the moment it's just performing like a monster. Anyway, it's got so much bandwidth there.
Yeah, it doesn't really need more than that, right? Well, I can't say need. People always want more, but that's the limitation right now for the first generation of HBM, and it's already performing really well with that. So once we see like second gen HBM, it's going to be pretty impressive.
You'll just ask in chat. He says, "I'm using Nvidia. Should I be concerned about GameWorks?" Every PC gamer on the planet should be concerned about GameWorks or any technology like this that is done by AMD as well.
Yeah.
Any company that tries to force proprietary technology into a video game to make you worry about the brand of your hardware rather than the power of your hardware to enjoy a game is bad for gamers.
Yeah, anything that's going to really restrict the gamer anyway. It's the same way with consoles and console exclusives. Watching like the PS4 press conference, how many times this is coming first to the PlayStation 4. This is happening first on PS4. That stuff is just bad for gamers, and
Right.
it's the same way. On the PC, it didn't always used to be like that, but now it's starting to be AMD versus Nvidia, just like it is PS4 versus Xbox One. And when that's happening and companies start doing proprietary stuff, then gamers lose at the end of the day.
When there's a dollar at stake, you just got to understand in this capitalist society, man. When there's a dollar at stake, they're not going to hold hands and pat each other and hug each other. It's it's an all-out battle, man. When it comes to those profits in the.
Alfred's screaming his question, which is the dual Fiji the same as Crossfire. Any dual graphics card currently, I don't know, they might do something different with this I'm not aware of. Any dual graphics card is essentially the same as dual cards. It's a shorter data path, so it's a little quicker. Also, another quick question.
Speed of light, at the speed of light, yeah.
No,
so.
you can disable it, It's just like if you're familiar with 690s at all, which is a dual GPU NVIDIA card, you can disable one, and it's just like having a single, 680 it was for that. And now with the Fiji cards, it'll just be like having one Fury X if you disable one.
Another interesting question I'm going to grab real quick, asking about why we only do a 2-year warranty. Okay, so without getting into international law, essentially various markets have different legal issues when it comes to providing warranties. Yep. So while you may look at company A and they've got a 36-month or 3-year warranty in the United States, you get to Asia, they might only have a 2-year warranty.
One year in Japan.
Right.
1 year. That's all they have to give,
and
so they only give 1 year.
Because of that, what we essentially did as a company, this was the way it was explained to me, we picked a blanket warranty that allows us to be effective in every marketing with the same warranty to avoid confusion. Now, that makes it look like we've got a lesser warranty in other countries. That's not the case, all right? When it comes to electronic devices like this, failure typically takes place in the first 6 months of use.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
If it doesn't fail in the first 6 months of use, it's not going to fail from anything in production. It'll fail from abuse or from power surge.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I agree. I was saying I've never had like a product after a year of usage it blow out, except a Seagate hard drive.
Well, that's almost expected, isn't it?
I think everybody's had a Seagate might fail after a year.
Hey, I've had my Seagate 1 terabyte going for like 3 years now. Don't jinx it, okay? It's okay. I've got some HGSTs waiting in the wings, though.
I don't think people, like in my experience, man, growing up, there's just so many Seagate hard drives that have crapped out on me, like my friends.
There's a giant landfill with Seagate drives somewhere right now, just filled up with broken dreams and promises. Goodbye, Good Hair wanted to know if AMD can get TressFX to run well on competitors' hardware, why can't Nvidia do the same thing with Hairworks? It's not that they can't, it's that Nvidia won't let them. Nvidia is basically keeping it all to themselves. That's basically what it comes down to. They're just being greedy. But I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be able to run on other hardware.
It should. Look at the fact it does.
Yeah,
you turn down
certain things. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you could run Hairworks on Witcher 3. It's only certain things like advanced physics that they're blocking people out from. But it's a matter of letting them optimize for it really, and trying not to do things with the technology that they know intentionally is going to gimp AMD. When it comes out, and it's going to run better on Maxwell. That's basically what they're doing.
I've had the question asked twice now, do I suggest boycotting all NVIDIA games? No, I do not. Because there are some really good ones. Okay, Borderlands 2, Witcher 3, there are some really good games that NVIDIA has taken part of in the development. I don't suggest boycotting them. What I do suggest is, though, we're beginning to reach the point that any title that is claiming to be specifically enhanced for any company, we need to, as a community, stand up and say, no, we don't want this anymore. And I think that even a boycott, I think, is too much because, again, we'll miss great games. I think instead we don't pre-purchase. We maybe wait until they go on Steam sales. We deprive the developers of the early, fast cash flow to say to them, forget the proprietary crap. You worry about making games. Let the hardware companies make the hardware.
Yeah. All right. So I think that we're going to be wrapping up the show now because I know Brian's got to get to work in a few minutes.
I'm okay. I'm actually okay for another 10 or another 5 or 10. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if there's any more questions, like juicy ones.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything coming up except for Power GP wants to know why I'm so handsome. I was just born this way, man.
Yeah. Joker's aura is just, encompassing me and Ed.
Alfred's laughing about Huddy's corporate title, Chief Gaming Scientist. I actually like mine better, Alfred. I am unofficially our Sapphire's gaming evangelist.
Yeah.
So I like that better. PC gaming as a religion. That's the way it should be.
No, Bobby Lulls, I have not seen Linus's review yet on the Fury. I've been busy all day. I've been busy all day, so I haven't watched it yet. I'm actually going to probably watch that after we get off the stream.
I just woke up, so.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it yet. I hadn't seen any videos yet on the Fury X. I've seen a few articles today from like Guru 3D and Tech Report, but I haven't seen any videos yet.
They're asking if Richard Huddy's my father. That's so funny. I'm about the same age as Richard.
As who?
Richard Huddy.
Oh, I know my... Sorry, go ahead.
There are a lot of people in this industry that are PR representatives for companies. They pay lip service to being gamers, but they're not. Okay? Between me and you, they're just not. All right? How many of them can tell you that one of their favorite moments in Borderlands 2 was when Tiny Tina sent you to kill all the various vending machines because it was oatmeal raisin cookies, not chocolate chip? They're not legitimate gamers. They're not hardcore gamers. Richard Huddy is a serious hardcore gamer. PDX Land, I introduced him to Garden Warfare, and the guy got addicted. It's just funny to watch Richard play Garden Warfare, and I hate him in a sunflower. He is nasty and mean.
I like the pea. I like the pea shooter. What's my buddy Charlie from For the Banter and I wants to know how long you've had that epic George R.R. Martin beard of yours.
Hold on, I gotta do some math here.
He shaved this morning, actually. No.
Years.
How long?
31 years.
Wow.
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah, whenever I try to grow a beard, it just gets ridiculously itchy at a certain point, and then it sort of doesn't get itchy, but then it looks bad, so I just shave it off anyway.
Okay. Sorry.
I see a question here about Sapphire Select Club versus Sapphire Nation.
Okay, go ahead.
Sapphire Nation is our initiative to provide a PC gaming community. What I want everybody to understand is Sapphire Nation is first and foremost about PC gaming. Sure, we want you to buy a Sapphire video card. I would love for you all to buy a Sapphire video card. I need a pay raise. But that's beside the point. It's about great PC gaming. To do this, we've got SapphireNation.net, which has got a series of small, simple blog articles. We're going to be doing contests and stuff there. We've also got a GameWorks server we run, and I do the Twitch stream that we talked about. And all of this is focused, by the way, on PC gaming, not on Sapphire, on PC gaming. So that's what Sapphire Nation is. Sapphire Select Club is the registration process of your Sapphire video cards. That's where you go to register your video card, and you get part of some of the contests they do specifically for people that have registered and bought video cards. Nation, you don't have to be a Sapphire user to join. We want everybody. I don't care if you got an NVIDIA card. We will pray for you, my brothers, that you can be freed of that green monkey. But we really don't care. Come play some games with us. We've got an Elder Scrolls Online group that's rocking. We've got literally Garden Warfare is almost a once-a-week occurrence. We've got a large group that's doing Ark. We've got other people playing just about any game. Come join us on the GameWorks server. Hang out. Have fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that,
All right, let's see if we got any more questions coming in.
Let's do Kit Guru. Can we do Kit Guru?
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you'd want to do that or not, but I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, just shoot it.
Curtis wanted to know what his thoughts were about the Kit Guru incident, so I'll let
Okay,
you take it away.
first a little background for those that don't know me. I was a reviewer for 20 years. So I understand both sides of this argument. Now, I'm not going to comment on if AMD did right or not with Kit Guru. What I can tell you is when these companies go to give product samples to reviewers and review sites, the problem is these aren't free. Everybody thinks, hey, they make the video cards, they get them for free. No, they're not free. And they've got a limited marketing budget that they're allowed to bring card sampling out to. So when it goes to sending a card, there is some consideration that's taken into account of the reviewer. Does the reviewer show an obvious bias against the product? Because if they do, you don't want them to look at the product. Okay, that's like the Democrats aren't going to take their latest plan for the economy to Fox News to reveal it. Okay, it's just not going to happen. And so there are instances, I'm not saying this is one, but there are instances where companies have to do this and say, we're not going to send you a card. And the response from the other side is where you get to kind of determine what's going on behind the scenes. Now,
You don't know, right?
Kit Guru specifically, I don't have all the details on. But I'm just saying, when this happens, always try to look from both sides at what's going on, because sometimes it's actually justified.
Yeah. Well, there was when I watched the video, read his article. There was some truth to what he was saying, but the way he went about it was definitely all wrong. He was off the mark on what he said about the consoles and things like that not being a leap forward. He was definitely off the mark on that kind of stuff. But AMD was obviously they held back the card, and I didn't agree with that.
Why he talked about APUs though? That had
that
was
way off the mark.
You could say it was a bit of a cry, yeah. But I mean, like, whatever. At the end of the day, we don't know what was said between him and AMD, and
we just know his side of the story.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's not really my place to say what would have happened. I don't know. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, you got denied a review sample. It happens. That's what I've said. It happens.
Yeah.
But like I said, just always take it and look both sides. I mean, I know we want to fall on the side of the reviewer. I do it all the time and irritate the people in my company quite a bit. But we want to fall on the side of the reviewer, but the reviewer isn't always the one that's right. Sometimes they've screwed up too, and when there's limited resources, you put them where you're going to get best effect. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
I definitely I see what you mean. Like I wanted to take his side as being the reviewer, because I'm just like, well, he shouldn't allow whether he's going to get a review sample or not dictate his content if that's the way he honestly feels.
Absolutely, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. And everyone on this earth makes mistakes, right? So you can't hold AMD or whatever. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he spoke out on things he shouldn't have been speaking out on. So whatever, he made a mistake. He can learn from it. Whatever,
Yep.
So
there's ways to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna pretty much wrap up the show, guys. It was awesome having you on, though, Ed. Thank you so much for coming on.
Man.
Anytime you guys want me, just give me a yell.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I had contacted you on Twitter, because I was looking to talk about the 300 series, and all of a sudden he's coming on the show, and I was like, this is great. So
yeah,
I apologize for the confusion earlier in the week. This is a rough week.
Yeah, initially he was going to reschedule, and then we got him back at the last minute. But I was glad to get it in and get it done now sooner rather than later, because it's everyone's talking about the 300 series and the Fury X, and we've got you on the show. Though you're not on the WAN show. Where are you? You're right here.
Yeah, that's right, man. We've hottest show on YouTube.
Yeah, I know some people in chat were saying this is the best one we've done so far. I would agree. This was awesome. So thank you for coming on, Ed. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It was fun, guys.
All All right, and
Yeah.
thank you everyone in chat for hanging out. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.
And also check out Ed on Twitter. And do you want to quickly
if you
yell
look
out
down
your Twitter?
go on, and down in the description also there's some links to his Twitch stream. And you're saying you're doing something over there with those Sapphire Nation.
Yeah.
Sapphire Nation, SapphireNation.net is the website. The stream stuff, though, you just go to my Twitch stream. The schedule's there. I always keep the schedule updated so you know when the next stream is going to take place. The Nation Live show is a PC gaming talk show. It's more formal like this is.
Yeah.
The game stream is wide open. Everybody's in the GameBox server together. We're all chatting live during the stream and playing together. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
Cool.
awesome. Well, thank you once again, guys, for joining in. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and thanks again to Ed for joining us back. Hope we could have him back soon sometime. And we'll catch you guys next time. Sarah.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out for now. Bye.